and of course, it is necessary to understand each specific situation. In this regard, I note that in many cases, thanks to your effective intervention, the violated rights of people were restored and the damage caused was compensated. Much has been done in important areas related to the protection of the interests of the state and society. I want to thank the Russian prosecutors for their professionalism and responsibility for such an approach to their duties. Special words of gratitude to the employees who work in Donbass and Novorossiya, as well as in the subjects of the Russian Federation located in close proximity to the combat zone. In challenging circumstances, you fulfill your duty with dignity and courage, helping people. I remind you that at both the federal and regional levels, a decision has been made to support citizens affected by the Kiev regime. This includes compensation for lost property, housing certificates, and other payments. I ask prosecutors to strictly ensure that the funds due to people are received on time and in full, and that temporary and permanent housing is provided as quickly as possible. I ask special attention to be paid to the protection of children's rights. And one moment, well, you know, we all know well that our troops recently conducted a series of swift, rather bold, effective operations and are completing the defeat of the enemy troop grouping in the Kursk region. I will repeat in this regard. According to the laws of the Russian Federation, all servicemen of the Ukrainian army, and even more so foreign mercenaries who were on our territory and committed the entire range of crimes against the civilian population must be and is classified by our law as acts of terrorism. The atrocities they committed must be identified, documented, and thoroughly investigated. I ask the prosecution authorities, including military prosecutors, to fully conduct this work together with other services in the liberated territories, in Sudzha and other settlements. All these criminals, punishers, those who gave criminal orders, made fun of peaceful citizens must be identified and subsequently receive fair punishment. I note that for the prosecution bodies, for your staff of all ranks, it should be a professional and moral duty to support the defenders of the fatherland, veterans of the Great Patriotic War, those who passed hotspots, settle accounts with international terrorism, and of course the participants in the special military operation. I emphasize that the results of the prosecution's inspections and supervisory activities in this sphere must be constantly analyzed and summarized. Such a practice, of course, exists and needs to be expanded. Yeah, in several regions of the Federation, with the participation of the Prosecutor's Office, initiatives have already been supported to provide the entitled payments without the need for applications. Gaps in regional legislation regarding the status of volunteer formation participants have been addressed. The responsibility to obtain various certificates, such as military service, is placed on the social protection authorities themselves. I know that the military prosecutor's office staff are actively helping to solve the problems of servicemen, including combat participants. I ask military prosecutors to enhance this work and continue to contribute to strengthening military discipline as the most important factor of high combat readiness of the troops. An urgent task of the prosecutor's office remains the coordination of the fight against crime. And here, as we agreed at last year's board meeting, it's necessary to more actively implement a system of additional measures for crime prevention, including among youth. Since, despite the decrease in the level of crimes among minors, the total number of such offenses is still quite large. As before, issues of countering extremism and terrorism require increased attention. At a recent Federal Security Service Board meeting, it was noted that the number of terrorist-related crimes has significantly increased. It is important to enhance the security of industrial and transport infrastructure facilities. with attempts to destabilize the socio-political situation in our country, with public calls for terrorism and the creation of radical groups. Dear colleagues, your activities must be strengthened in all areas that directly affect the quality of life of our citizens. First of all, I mean the protection of legally guaranteed social, housing, labor, and other rights. To such crucial areas, undoubtedly, belongs healthcare. You know, a lot has been done in recent years, including within the framework of the corresponding national project, as well as through other programs. Your task is to continue overseeing the legality of the procurement procedures for equipment for clinics and hospitals, the uninterrupted supply of medicines, and qualified medical care. And in the case of violations, of course, to respond immediately. Our citizens expect more effective work from the prosecutor's office in the field of environmental protection and natural resource use. The sinking of 2 tankers with oil spills in the Black Sea at the end of last year showed the severe consequences for people, nature, and the economy of neglecting safety rules. I note that it was the Prosecutor General who, immediately after the accident, was the first among the highest-ranking officials proposed to introduce a federal emergency situation regime. In the end, it had to be done that way. I would like to point out it is necessary to conduct systematic work through the Environmental Prosecutor's Office in cooperation with other supervisory law enforcement agencies, jointly address deficiencies in regulation, and in case of violations, take measures for environmental damage compensation. Practice shows that such work by the prosecutor's office yields the desired result. For example, prosecutors made a significant contribution to in stopping illegal logging and the smuggling of timber. Much is also being done to protect our protected areas, Lake Baikal and wildlife. In particular, significant work has been done to regulate the extraction, maintenance, and export of marine mammals. Responsible tasks related to protecting the rights of entrepreneurs of domestic business are crucial for our development, for strengthening economic sovereignty, and for increasing the incomes of millions of citizens employed in industry, in small and medium-sized businesses. As you know, I hope you saw, I spoke about this just yesterday at the RSPP Congress. I remind you that since January of this year, supervisory bodies, including the prosecutor's office, have fully transitioned to a risk-oriented approach. We need to clearly and consistently develop such a practice, together with the business community, to eliminate the remaining administrative barriers hindering economic development and business, while, of course, taking care of consumer rights protection. This is two sides of the same coin. In the same way, it is necessary to effectively combat corruption, paying increased attention to how funds are spent on national projects, state defense orders, and the implementation of large-scale state and regional development programs. I am confident that the prosecutorial corps of Russia understands the full level of its responsibility, the historical significance of the tasks before us, and will make maximum efforts for their clear and effective execution. I wish you further success. Thank you very much for your attention. Dear Igor Vitalyevich, dear colleagues, I looked before coming to you. Just now, I skimmed through the draft resolution of the Collegium of the General Prosecutor's Office. Everything is important. It's simply impossible to highlight just one thing. Whatever page you open, everything is important. So I will say something perhaps general, but very, in my opinion, fundamental. I will just remind you that the main task of the prosecutor's office is, as it has always been in our country, our history has developed this way. The main thing is compliance with the law, supervision of compliance with the law, by everyone, both citizens and legal entities, organizations, and importantly, officials. This is where our people see the foundation of justice. In turn, this ensures the cohesion of Russian society and the stability of the state, which is always important. But today it holds particular significance. In this sense, your role, the importance of your work